I will tell you, for one, I really do appreciate the new president's rhetoric. I do think it's helpful to really try to establish a positive working relationship with Europe. I also think the president is right that the G7 is one of the fora that we'll really need to focus on to do that. But I do think some of the happy talk does obscure some of the real challenges in that relationship. We're still going to have tension on things in the foreign policy area, things like Nord Stream 2 or the amount of money that Europe's paying for defense. There's still going to be problems on trade, whether it's Europe's digital policies, which are very problematic in the United States, or it's things like Buy American that we're doing, that the Biden administration has doubled down. And then there's the big one, and that's China. And I am still quite worried about how well we're going to be able to coordinate here. And I can tell you, when I was in the White House, we heard the Europeans, President Macron himself coming in and saying every time, we got to work together better on China. We got to work together better on China. And now you hear him saying, well, I don't know if we want to single out China. And so I do think there's some real challenges there. And I think the Biden administration is going to have to do everything it can to raise the European level of ambition. I think they're clear-eyed about that challenge, but it is a real challenge.
Okay, so if you believe that the EU might increasingly start to push back against this so-called singling out China policy, how might that manifest itself and how far could it be pushed?
Well, it's not clear yet how that's going to happen. I think if you look at what the EU released on Thursday, they had their trade policy agenda, and it talked a lot about pushing back on China in the WTO, in the multilateral context, and trying to set rules there, not doing so with using economic leverage outside of the WTO. And I think that's where there's going to be a big difference here between the United States and Europe. Now, what the Biden administration has said, and you alluded to this in your remarks earlier, is they basically said they're going to keep the tariffs in place for now, that they do think that they give them an important source of leverage, and that they want to think about how to use them before they roll them back. Now, I do think that at some point there could be some changes to the tariff policy, but I think they recognize it's a source of leverage that they're not going to want to give up. And figuring out how the U.S. can be using these sources of leverage and how the Europeans want to work more through some of these multilateral organizations, they're going to have to figure out how to do a little bit of both, in my opinion.